Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a story so incredible it gave its name to a type of fraud we still see today. It's a tale of ambition, charm, and a spectacular collapse. This is the story of Charles Ponzi. Imagine it's the early 20th century. A young Italian immigrant named Carlo Ponzi arrives in America with just $2.50 in his pocket, but $1 million worth of dreams. He was charismatic, clever, and absolutely determined to make his fortune. He wasn't born a criminal, he was born an optimist, convinced that a better life was just around the corner. After a few years of odd jobs, small-time scams, and even a stint in prison for check forgery, Ponzi found himself in Boston, still searching for that one big idea. And in 1919, he believed he'd found it. It all started with a letter from a company in Spain. Inside was something called an International Reply Coupon, or IRC. Here's how it was supposed to work. You could buy an IRC in one country and exchange it for postage stamps in another. Due to the economic chaos after World War I, exchange rates were all over the place. Ponzi did the math and realized he could buy IRCs cheaply in a country like Italy and redeem them for a much higher value in stamps in the United States. He calculated the potential profits were over 400%. It was, in his mind, foolproof arbitrage, the golden ticket he'd been searching for his entire life. In January 1920, with this brilliant idea in hand, he started his own company, the Securities Exchange Company. He walked into a local Boston office, furnished it with borrowed furniture, and began pitching his plan to anyone who would listen. He didn't just sell an investment, he sold a dream. He promised his investors an astronomical 50% return in just 45 days, or 100% in 90 days. People were skeptical at first. It sounded too good to be true. But Ponzi was a master salesman. His confidence was infectious. A few brave souls took the plunge, investing small amounts. And, true to his word, 45 days later they got their money back, plus the promised 50% profit. The news spread like wildfire through the immigrant communities of Boston. These were hard-working people, factory workers, fishermen, tailors, who had never seen returns like this. They saw Ponzi not as a swindler, but as one of them, a hero who had found a way to beat the system and share the wealth. Lines began to form outside his office on School Street. People emptied their life savings, mortgaged their homes, and begged him to take their money. By May 1920, he had taken in over $400,000. By June, that number was $2.5 million. By July, it was escalating to $1 million a week. Charles Ponzi was the talk of the town. He bought a lavish 12-room mansion, a custom-built limousine, and wore the finest suits. He was living the American dream, and he had become a folk hero, the Wizard of Boston. But here's the secret, the fatal flaw in his grand design. While his idea about the IRCs was theoretically sound, it was practically impossible to scale. There simply weren't enough coupons in circulation, and the logistics of buying and redeeming millions of them were a nightmare. So, how was he paying those incredible returns? He wasn't. He was simply using the money from new investors to pay off the old ones. The entire operation wasn't a business, it was a house of cards, a whirlwind of cash moving from one hand to another. As long as new money kept pouring in, he could keep the illusion alive. This, my friends, is the essence of a Ponzi scheme. But even the most enchanting illusions must end. Journalists and financial experts started asking tough questions. The Boston Post, in particular, assigned a team of reporters to dig into his business. They couldn't find any evidence of him actually buying or selling IRCs on a massive scale. Doubts began to surface. Ponzi, ever the showman, fought back. He invited reporters to his office, opened his books, which were a chaotic mess, and charmed them with his unwavering confidence. For a time it worked. When one newspaper ran a story questioning his solvency, a panic ensued. Worried investors rushed to his office demanding their money. In a brilliant mover, Ponzi calmly met them, served them coffee and donuts, and paid out every single person who asked for a withdrawal. The panic subsided, and his reputation seemed stronger than ever. People who had just withdrawn their money immediately reinvested it, plus more. But the walls were closing in. In August 1920, the authorities finally stepped in. Federal agents audited his company, and the truth came crashing down. They discovered he was billions of coupons short of what he would have needed to cover his liabilities. The entire empire was a sham. He hadn't just failed to make a profit, he was millions of dollars in debt. On August 12, 1920, the House of Cards collapsed. Charles Ponzi was arrested. The news sent shockwaves through Boston. Thousands of investors, who had once hailed him as a financial genius, lost everything. Their dreams, built on his promises, turned to dust overnight. The total losses were estimated to be around $20 million, a staggering sum in 1920. Ponzi was convicted of mail fraud and served several years in prison. After his release, he was deported back to Italy, his American dream in ruins. He tried to launch other schemes, but the magic was gone. He spent his final years in poverty, working odd jobs in Brazil, and died in a charity hospital in Rio de Janeiro in 1949, penniless and nearly forgotten. The story of Charles Ponzi is a powerful reminder. It's a story about the allure of get-rich-quick and the seductive power of a charismatic leader selling an impossible dream. He wasn't just a con man. For a brief, shining moment, he was a symbol of hope for thousands. But it was a hope built on a foundation of lies. His name now lives on, not as a symbol of success, but as a timeless warning. A Ponzi scheme. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more tales from history. We'll see you in the next one.